Alright guys, it is once again Cosmo the Coder, and it's Tuesday, the 22nd of March 2016, and Humble have once again blessed us with another Humble bundle. This week, it's the Humble Sega Strategy bundle, and this gives me a good excuse to play this. Sorry, I couldn't help it. So, without further ado, we're going to get straight in with this. Now, going straight in down to the first tier, which is always the white tier. For $1 or more, you get a grand total of, I was going to say 5 games, but you usually get 9. If you, well, hang on, no, 8. Sorry, I'm miscounting because of the. I keep thinking this is the, what do you call it? It's not exactly a bundle thing. Now, straight off, we're going into Company of Heroes, the complete edition. Now, this at the moment on Steam is $19.99. It's essentially a tactical squad-based real-time strategy game set during World War II. You're not going to get much more than that. Essentially, it's extremely well received. It's actually got some extremely great reviews on Steam right now, despite it being quite old. It's got 93% on Metacritic. It is considered to be one of the best real-time strategy games set during World War II out there, and to this day it's still played online and offline. So based on that, it's definitely worth a good look at. Now, moving swiftly on, and I should do that without further ado, is Warhammer 40k Dawn of War. Now, if you're one of these people that immediately says, hang on a second, Warhammer 40k is a geeky kind of thing, you're absolutely right. It is a bit out there, a bit sort of thing, but you know, the game itself isn't actually that geeky, if you want to put it clearly. I mean, when I first saw it, I thought, oh god, I'm not into Warhammer at all. You know, I know what it is. I've seen all the shops around and everything. You know, I'm not interested in it in the slightest. But if you actually play this game, you'll actually realise how good it actually is. It's a real-time strategy game, similar in the vein of Command and Conquer and all that kind of stuff like that. And essentially, you build bases, you deploy units. You've got limitations on your squad numbers and so on and so forth. So it essentially is a real-time strategy game. It's exceptionally good, and considering you get the Master Collection as well, means that you get all the DLCs that are with it all the DLCs that are part of the game. So there's 3 DLCs that sort of expand it and adds things. Some of them are a bit weaker than the others, but the main game itself is extremely interesting and quite entertaining. It's $29.99 on Steam right now for the actual complete edition. So it's well worth a look at, definitely, and I've played it all the way through too, so I can heartily recommend it. Moving on to Medieval Total War. Now, there are quite a few Total War games in this bundle, and it's kind of important that, I suppose in a way, that you understand what Total War games are. It's a grand strategy kind of game. Now, what that kind of means is that rather than commanding like a few units or 100 units or so, you're commanding several thousand units, or these groups of units. It's kind of a more tactical kind of game. You have to make sure you put certain units against other units. It's more of a sort of grand, like I said, a grand strategy kind of game. This one was made in 2006. It's got pretty good reviews. It's worth $19.99 on Steam. It's not my kind of cup of tea, but then it's not everyone's cup of tea. Some people like it, some people don't. I couldn't get into it because it was too tactical for me. That might sound a bit daft, but it was just one of those things. The same goes for Rome Total War, to be honest with you. This one was actually made 2 years earlier, so it's not, obviously it's set completely different from Medieval Total War, but it's still extremely well received as well. This was actually $6.99 on Steam, and you do get the whole sort of all the DLCs and everything, just like Medieval Total War, which I kind of forgot to mention, but never mind. Again, now moving further on, you get essentially 4 games on Steam. Each one is $1.99. Shining Force and Shining Force 2 are basically turn-based JRPGs. Gameground, I'm trying to think what it was called. It's very similar to, it looks fairly similar to like Golden Axe. No, not Golden Axe. What am I thinking? No. Golden Axe is the side scroller, isn't it? It's basically a top-down game where you walk around arenas and kill monsters, essentially. So you're not gonna. It's nothing more than that, really. The columns is kind of Tetris gone wrong, where you basically use gems and match them up. It's the old style sort of puzzle game. So you're getting some old Mega Drive classics or Genesis classics, depending on your location or whatever you want it. So fairly old classic games, nothing to sort of AAA that maybe if in terms of Mega Drive games, but they do have cult followings, and worth it for $1. Absolutely. As always, you do get the 10% off the Humble Monthly, but again, that's something that's only for new people. So there you go. Now, moving straight into the green tier, we get a whole host of more games. So straight in, we've got Valkyrie Chronicles. Now, Valkyrie Chronicles is an RPG kind of game that's a very, very rich and story-rich. Sorry, I'm just trying to read my notes and I'm getting muddled here. A story-rich RPG. The graphics engine is actually exceptionally interesting. It's kind of like, as you just saw in that video, a sort of a pencil drawing with color and everything. It's very well received. It's actually considered one of the best ports of the game because it is actually a port from when it was actually first released, and in general, it's considered one of the best ports of it on PC. Short of that, it's basically a sort of depiction of, I suppose in a way, sort of somewhere between World War I and World War II, all combined with sort of knights and things like that, as you can see. It's certainly a very interesting side of the game. Definitely worth a look at. It's currently at about $14.99 on Steam, and definitely worth a good look at. I actually do own it, I believe, and I will get around to playing it at some point. But it's one of Sega's sort of gems that sort of makes you think this game is worth a good look at. Now, Dawn of War 2, the Master Collection. This one actually surprised me. The price on Steam, amazingly, is $54.99, and this is because the Master Collection contains pretty much every piece of DLC that is available for Dawn of War 2, which is essentially a shit ton of content. But it's worth mentioning that quite a lot of it is either multiplayer stuff or different units or different things like that. So it's not necessarily, you may not necessarily end up using all of it. Now, it's worth mentioning that Dawn of War 2 is very different to Dawn of War, in that Dawn of War is basically a base building real-time strategy game. This is more of a squad-based real-time strategy game, where you essentially pick certain units to be part of your sort of squad, and you're able to divide them up into different sort of groups. Well, I say you are. They're already kind of set up in different groups. So you've got like a group of scouts, or a group of soldiers, or a group of heavy duties soldiers, and you basically determine the best tactical methods of going through each level. You basically use a cover system. It's all kind of it's very different. A lot of people were very surprised by how good, first of all, how good Dawn of War 2 actually was, but also how different it was from the first game. They were expecting a sort of complete rehash of the first game, but instead what they got was something completely different. There's no base building, there's no sort of loads of squads, loads of enemies. You don't build your own units. You essentially customize your groups of units and set about on different kinds of missions during different kinds of plot lines, depending on the DLCs that you play. It's exceptionally well worth the value for for what it's actually offering. Even if you now, I actually do own this, and I'm sorry, I was trying to say something else. I actually do own this, but I only own the main game and some bits of the DLC. This will give you the whole shebang. So even if you do own parts of it, it might be even worth be having a go at it, because then you get the whole lot. And should I ever decide to play it again, I would definitely be interested in playing some of the DLCs and stuff. Excuse me. Right, East Side Hockey Manager. My notes for this basically read like this. It's $14.99. It's a sports management game. It's got good reviews. That's it. What else can I say? In that it's a sports management game for hockey. You know, if it interests you, you'll play it. If it doesn't interest you, then it won't. Moving on. Right, again, another Total War. This time we're looking at Shogun 2, Fall of the Samurai Collection. It's $24.99 on Steam. This one was released in 2012, so it's a fairly recent kind of game. Again, it's got fairly good reviews. It's not bad. Not considered one of the worst Total War games. There is a worst one, and I'll get to that in a minute. And you do get all the DLCs, so that's pretty damn good for the price. I can't really say much more than that because it's the same thing. It's Total War again, different units, different things. There will of course be extra bits, sort of things compared to the other Total War games, because obviously as the series has progressed, there are more sort of useful tools, useful bits and pieces. But beyond that, I can't tell you much more than that. Now, you also do get a 66% off Football Manager 2016. Now, I didn't actually check the price of this, but that's going to be if you're interested in any sort of management system and management simulation games. I personally am not, so I can't really say very much more than that. I might actually look at the price of it a bit later, but it's obviously quite a recent game. It's enough said, really. Right, into the blue tier for $12. You get Total War Attila. Now, unfortunately, this one seems to be plagued by some rather nasty DLC problems and some paywall problems and some crashes. The reviews on Steam are quite mixed. Some like it, some don't like it for the obvious technical reasons. It's $29.99 and it was released last year. Now, if you want to go for this kind of game, then I'd say only really do it if you're into the Total War games. Personally, the top two games in the blue tier are not my cup of tea at all, and I actually own Company of War Heroes 2 anyway, so I might not actually bother with it, but I'll decide that later. But the review section doesn't make good reading for this one. There seems to be a lot of dislike towards how it's been kind of restructured in terms of, like I said, the paywall kind of stuff and the DLC stuff. It's also worth noting that you don't get DLCs with this one. This is the only one that you don't get the DLCs in as part of this bundle. So watch yourself with this one. That's what I can kind of say. Company of Heroes 2, the Master Collection, is actually worth quite a bit because it contains all the DLCs for it, which is worth $42.99 on Steam. It's not as actually well received as the first one. It is quite well reviewed, but at the moment, a lot of people don't that they don't like it. They prefer the first one to the second one. It does enhance upon the first one, but they'd much rather play the first one for certain reasons, and it tends to be more of the gameplay more than anything. So overall, it's really down to you about the blue tier. I can't really give you much more than that, other than it is a good game. It is being reviewed quite well, but people's general comments are it's not as good as the first one. So as you get the first one in the sort of the top, in the first the dollar tier, then you basically need to sort of ask, do you really want to go the whole hog and go for Company of Heroes 2? It's a question you're going to have to ask yourselves, I'm afraid. So that's about it for this bundle. You do support 4 charities, which you can see right here. In general, my personal point of view is that the bundle is certainly worth for me at least the green tier. The blue tier, like I said, is sort of a bit for me. And essentially because I do own quite a few of the games already, it's sort of, I'm sort of erring on the side of caution here. Now, I am going to get it because it contains all the DLCs and stuff for Dawn of War 1 and 2. But overall, I'm not too fussed about the Total War games. And although the Sega sort of Genesis stuff is always nice to sort of have the old classic games, but it's never really my sort of cup of tea. So overall, I'm not going to spend a lot of money on it, I think. I can't anyway. I've paid off. I've been paying for other things, so that's kind of out there for me anyway. All right, I'm going to stop waffling on because I'm waffling on. Thank you as always, guys, for watching. Like, dislike, subscribe, and please do comment on everything that I have said. If there's anything that bothers you, or if you have any questions, I always do. Well, I tend to always respond, and I always take criticism fairly as long as it's constructive. As always, I will review another bundle next week, hopefully. The CryEngine bundle is still there. I'll actually click on that quickly. I believe it has been expanded upon, but I can't actually tell because I can't actually remember what it was. But even if it was, all I could say is, it's got some nice trees. What could I possibly say? The only thing I did forget to mention last week is that the CryEngine is free to use and to create games with, to a certain point anyway. I believe there is a condition where if you do release a game, you have to pay a certain percentage to the guys that make it, and they've gone completely in my head who it was. Crytek. Of course it is. It's Crytek. Duh. So you do have to register and stuff, but go to CryEngine.com. You'll get all. You should know about it anyway. It's free to use. You've got a load of assets to play around with now if you spend the money. So you could certainly create like Romans running around in the forest, shooting animals with the weapons pack, maybe driving around in vehicles. I'm making shit up as I go. Okay, guys, that's it for now, and I will hopefully see you next time for another Humble Bundle review.